Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Dan Sissick, and I'm filling in as host today for Samantha, who is unable to join us today, and Catherine, she's unable to join us, and so it's me and my good friend Sandy Root, an awesome friend and very powerful woman in her own right, and looking forward to going over the next chapter. I'm going to be honest, I have not had a chance to jump in and or continue on with what we were talking about last week, which I was not here for. So I'm handing it over to Sandy a little bit to kind of kick things off, and hopefully we'll have more people join in with us. Sandy, so take it away.
Good morning, Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach. A beautiful beach day. I heard it's warm in other places now, like New York, so yay for everybody. Spring. So last week, we're on, I believe they said we're going to continue on the chapter for spiritual GPS, and that's chapter 4 in the book, if you have the book. Last week we were going more off of the audiobook. And Christina had a lot of amazing input because she's really into the audiobook version. So this will continue on that, but we're going more into the book this week. So I'm just going to start it off by reading some of what Oprah wrote in the beginning of the chapter, which I think will help us kick off the conversation and remind me a little bit of what we were talking about last week as well, and get us back into that flow there. So one question Oprah opens the page with here is, your life is always speaking to you. The fundamental spiritual question is, will you listen? And we talked about this last week a lot about, if you really are present and aware, things are always speaking to you in your external world. Really being open to listening to what are you receiving from around you as your guide in life. So I'll read this page. The meaning of wisdom for me is recognizing the moment when what you know aligns perfectly with what you feel. That powerful flash of clarity telling you the right decision to make originates from only one source, you. Notice the capital Y. There is the little you, your personality, and there is the greater you, spelled with a capital Y, your soul. The people you love and trust most will hopefully always be there to offer advice. But you are on your own journey, responsible for charting your own course. Whenever I have felt most tested, lost, or unsure of my own direction, these words from Invictus that I memorized at 8 years old have been a way forward. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. With every decision, you are steering your own ship. Beneath all those protective layers built up between you and the world lives an inner voice that goes by many names. Some call it instinct or intuition. I call that persistent knowing our spiritual GPS. It acts as our internal compass, designed to help you move through life no matter what distractions or obstacles get in your way. Your GPS is always turned on. Whether you're headed on the right track or about to take a destructive turn, your emotional guidance system lets you know. Each quote you read in the following pages offers a different tool or real-life experience intended to help you tune in more sharply to what your spirit, your GPS, is trying to tell you. Every right decision I've ever made has come from listening to my gut. Every wrong decision was a result of me dismissing the small, still voice within me. Your life speaks to you in whispers, that little nudge saying, something doesn't feel right. If you ignore it, the whispers turn into pebbles thrown at you, warning there's a problem, danger ahead. If those signs remain unexamined, you will inevitably experience what feels like a heavy brick to the head. Shutting out the brick guarantees the disaster will strike. You will see your life come crashing down like a brick wall. I've seen this happen so often in my own life. I now try to respond immediately at the first whisper. What every one of these Super Soul Sunday conversations has taught me is that no matter who you are, if you've been faking your way through life, ignoring your inner compass, the wake-up call can be harsh. Job loss, the end of a relationship, money problems, disruption in any form. No matter how devastating, these are opportunities to stop sleepwalking through your life, wake up, and pay attention to the red flags, whispers, pebbles, and breaks along the way. Your real purpose on earth is to become more of who you really are, to live to the highest degree what is pure, what is honest, what is natural, what feels like the real you. You'll know you found it when every cell in your body vibrates with your own truth. When you're filled up by what you're doing instead of being drained by it. Follow your instincts. That's where true wisdom unfolds. Oprah. So lots of good stuff there. Yeah, and it's so true. There's those times where I'll look back and I'll kick myself in the butt because I knew like my intuition knew the right thing, but I chose the other thing. And then later on, I'm like, I knew it, you know. And I think we've all been there where we know we've had that gut feeling or that intuition kick in, and sometimes it's so subtle, so it's sometimes hard to be like, okay, is that my mind or is that my intuition? But the intuition is very subtle. It's like a whisper, like she says, like, you know. And when we listen to that, that's when the magic happens and when we're in the flow of life. And it's when she said this thing about if you ignore something that's sort of nudging you or you're not listening to it, something may be speaking to you, it can feel like a heavy brick to the head. And it's funny because, well, it's not funny because a couple weeks ago, I was really in a weird space emotionally and a lot of external stuff going on. And I knew I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't, doing the things I do to keep myself like grounded and centered, and wasn't doing my meditation that day and all this stuff. My spiritual path was off for a couple of days, which I find for me, that keeps me like really in tune with my intuition when I'm more centered and take that time, especially first thing in the morning, to get grounded and get clear about my intention for the day. So I get in my car one evening and the wind was so strong, the car door like, it was so hard, like knocked me, and it pushed my head into the other side of the door as I'm getting in the car, and it hurt so bad. And I'm like, okay, it was like to me, it was like a wake-up call from the universe, like, Sandy, like, you're like going crazy with all this stuff, like, calm down, get centered. But there was a bigger message for me, which is more personal, so I'm not going to go into the whole details, but it was really like a huge wake-up call for me, and it really made me look at some things in my life and make some changes. So yeah, when those things come, they're not for me, I don't think they're an accident or some coincidence. It's the universe like, hello, wake up, hello, like, you want what you want in your life, then focus, like, get it together. So I'll start with that.
And I'll jump in from there because I myself, over the last year or so, because of my situation things, and I've talked a little bit about it, I've been very up and down, and I'll admit my emotions have run the gamut of lots of stuff, dealing with some very personal stuff and into things in general. And it's been weird because when I pay attention, like you said, when you start paying attention and you listen to the little feelings and, however the nudges come, because I think for everybody it's a little different, but you get, to where you recognize those things. And for me, it was just something that happened a couple months ago. I had a real blow up for a moment between me and somebody, and I responded so out of my character that later on I had to go back and I said, I did not, and I ended up telling that person, I said, that was so not me. That's not me. I did not like the way I physically felt, when I responded. I said, that is not me. That's not who I am. That's not what I like, and that's not how I like to live. But it was, I was so in the moment that I just kind of lost all control, and turning around and going back and realizing how I felt and how it made me feel overall. It was just like that ooh icky feeling, that's the best way I could describe it for me. It's that ooh icky, I wanted to like just shake it off and say, no, get away, kind of type thing. That's not me. That's not who Dan Sissick is. That's not me. I don't, just lose it. I know I have that capability, and I know it's so deep in me that I can just really let all the anger out and everything. But I've learned how to try and, work on it and keep myself grounded, like you said. that when that happens, it's so out of character. And then like another thing yesterday is as I was doing giving somebody a ride, we got to talking and something, and I found out some of the things that they're going through and stuff, and nothing personal really, just general, but how they're like a photographer and they're trying to work on their dreams and their goals, but they feel kind of like they don't know where to go, where to turn, where to get some guidance, or get around the right type of people that have that same vibrational level that we talked about in the past of keeping yourself around people like that. And so I saw that opportunity, and I felt that nudge to say, go ahead and reach out, talk to, offer and say, hey, I'd love to, sit down with you and talk over some things and see where you're going, and, see if there's anything I can maybe do to help you, through my experiences of being involved in network marketing and, trying to build my business and build my dreams and stuff like that, to help pass on some insight that could be beneficial to them and help them get more centered and bring them into alignment with people of the same vibrational and same level and stuff like that. And that was something I normally would not do. I would normally would not just say, okay, let's go out on a limb and talk to this person and, see where they're at, and, if I can be of value somehow. So that was an interesting little nudge that I jumped on yesterday, because I listened to it, and it's like, and all day long and even today I'm like, feeling the results of it, I guess, or the I don't know how to put it into words, but that plane or level of like, wow, my vibrational being is up here now rather than down here, and I can feel it, I can sense it, and I'm energized by it. And I think that's, part a little bit of what Oprah's saying too, is, when you learn to follow that GPS, it keeps you in the level that, like Sandy, like you were talking about, keeping you grounded, keeping you where you want to be, keeping you where you need to function and be at your best level, and because we all have those times where we're sitting there, we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, and we're not getting anything done, we're not helping anybody, we're not being of any help to ourselves, and we're just totally kind of just like a chicken with its head cut off, just running around aimlessly. And I think that's a good point, is to be in tune with that spiritual GPS, so that way we keep ourselves grounded. And I see Miss Karen Lohop has joined us now finally, so she can add into the mix too, also, whatever she has to share. Um, so I'll pass it over to whoever else has something to share or add. Oh, just to bring you up, Karen.
Sure. Oh, huh?
I was just going to bring Karen up to speed really quick on that. We're still going on with what we were talking about, what you guys were talking about last week about the spiritual GPS, and going from there. So if you have any insights or anything to add, please do. Would love to hear from you.
Good
And Sandy
morning.
too.
Good morning. I'm so sorry. I think I've had Wi-Fi problems, but before I had Wi-Fi problems, I had memory problems. I tried to get onto my Chromebook and I couldn't remember my password, and it really was a problem. And if we think about spiritual GPS, hopefully our spiritual GPS is. Are you hearing me okay? Because I've got this slow feed on my lips and they're not syncing. It's weird. Um, Hopefully, our spiritual GPS is on at all times and we can connect with it, but um, it can be very disconcerting when things don't go as we plan, as we think that they will. And so it's really important, I think, to stay, maybe to have morning rituals. I mean, I do have morning rituals. Unfortunately, I had some openings in my night where one was where I stayed awake for an hour in the night, and I thought I'm just going to try and get a little extra sleep. I had actually plenty of time to get on the call, but I didn't have time to do all of my morning rituals, and so I can count on that I'm a little quaky inside for the lack of having done some of those things that I count on to keep me better. I don't know, able to listen, able to kind of maybe intuit when I have the spiritual GPS and when am I off? Am I there? This is funny when I'm apparently blinking my eyes and they're not syncing with my eyes. This is the weirdest thing. Anyway, I'll let you all figure out what's going on. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, I sort of brought that up in the beginning, a little bit of a time where I was off for a couple of days, and how those morning rituals are so important for me to really set my intention for the day and be connected to everything, more and grounded and centered. But yeah, when you were talking, Dan, about those times where it's like this person comes out that's not me, like, it doesn't happen so often anymore for me, but I remember a time a few months ago where I was going in a parking spot and this woman just came out of nowhere and tried to get in behind me, and I'm halfway in the spot, like parallel parking, and I flipped out. Afterwards I was like, who was that? That was not me. And then I felt bad. I'm like, what if she's having a bad day? You know, everybody's going through something. I felt bad. Like, what if I was so mean to her? So it happens. But yeah, I think the more connected we are and aware of ourselves, those things start to fall away more and more. Because yeah, I can't remember a time that I got like that in the recent future where I was like, that was not me. But yeah, and you were talking about being surrounded by people of your vibrational level, and I think that's so important, because I know for me, when I can be around someone who's maybe critical of everything or judging everything or in a negative kind of vibe, it's like I start to close and I start to feel like tight and constricted, like, ugh, like, because I'm just like, I got to get out of here. Like, this isn't vibing. But it's like with anything, if you want to be successful in something, you follow the people who are, you know, successful in that. Or if you want to be happy, you surround yourself with happy people, you know, whatever it is. It's important really who you're surrounding yourself with, and that always will help you stay in the frequency that you want to stay in. And as you were talking, Dan, I noticed this page of Oprah speaking with Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he's talking about this, how we're vibrational beings. So if we lift our vibration to what we want to experience, it happens first on a vibratory level, and then it shows up and manifests in our life. So really, I mean, that's like, we've learned those things like with manifestation and stuff. If you want something in your life, you have to vibrationally be at that stage. Like, if you want money, like, feel how would you feel if you had that money right now, and raise yourself to that vibration. If you want a certain relationship, be that person that you want to come into your life now, and be in that vibration, and then you can attract those things. And I like what he says at the end here. Well, Oprah says something, you have to be it and radiate it, and then it is drawn to you and you to it. So then the work becomes about you working on yourself. And then Michael says, you have to like yourself. I mean, when you're by yourself, you have to look at those thoughts, the beautiful thoughts, the crazy thoughts. You have to embrace yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You have to love yourself. And when you can fall in love with yourself and like yourself when you're by yourself, now you can be with others. But if you don't like yourself when you're by yourself, then you're pulling on others to make you happy. I think that's super powerful, because that's something I've realized myself. You know, it goes in stages, like more and more deeper self-love as I go through life, you know, like even the really difficult times, or things where I say, oh, I messed that up, and like I beat myself up. But then I've been this year really focusing on forgiving myself for those things that I feel like I messed up or did that wrong, or blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just been a lifelong pattern. But that self-forgiveness is huge, and it really, you know, and seeing the thoughts, even if they're like crazy and negative, you know, whatever, like really getting to know yourself on every good, deep, dark, every aspect, and loving it all and forgiving yourself for everything. And really having that time for yourself, it really changes everything and makes you really know what you want in your life and who you want to be around. loving yourself. Yeah, for sure. So I love that part that he was talking as well in the chapter. Vibrational beings, yay!
I was gonna add something in and throw something out from, and it's weird. I had a friend from my church that he periodically, whenever we catch up, and kind of, he always goes, um, aren't you lonely, or aren't you? And it's weird because yes, I am lonely in a sense of that I don't have the other half or somebody that helps but it's weird. I don't ever fully really feel lonely because overall, I think I'm comfortable with myself and I understand myself enough. And I've learned to accept a lot of the things. Yeah, I still have my dark areas and things like that, and I'm still working on them. But for the most part, it's weird because I look at people and you can look at them and tell that they're lonely in a way. You know, you can kind of see it and feel it and sense it. And I don't. Hopefully, I don't think I give that off because just the one friend says it. I have nobody else to ask me that. Really, it's so weird, and I think it bounces back off to him because I've met a couple people that they seem to that the only way they can find happiness or I guess, be happy is if they have that somebody else in their life that they feed off that and they really need it and desire it, and without it they can't seem to function. And I think that also goes back to part being in with our spiritual GPS stuff, that like you were saying, kind of being able to, when we're alone, be alone in our own thoughts, being alone in ourselves, being alone, and let that, the GPS download some of that stuff into us that we've been, taking in during the day and stuff, and that we need to process a little more deeply. And so, therefore, yeah, we need to sort through the good, the bad, the ugly, but that's part of who we are and what we're about. And to help, you know, work through so we can stay on that vibrational level that's up here and being the person that we want to be and stuff like that. So we're not just reacting, not just, responding, and not just, without being in tune. And I love what you and Karen both said. Yes, I have morning routines, but they're not kind of like the type of routines like you guys were talking about. I don't really sit and meditate. I just get up, do my normal, and then go off and I'm headed off to work, you know, but yet I'm finding more and more now when I come home. A lot of times, there are times where I come home, I don't turn any TV on, I don't turn on the radio, I don't turn on anything. I might be doing stuff like cleaning around the house, doing this, doing that, or some of the things I know I need to do. But in that time, I think I'm just processing and going through and letting myself kind of come through and work through things and process things, and that's become more and more of my ritual now. It's like when I come home, that's when I decompress and ground myself, kind of. And I'm realizing the value of that more and more, that I need some of that time to do that. And the more and more I think people realize that, they'll find their lives become a little more grounded because everybody's so go, go, go. And, you know, just I can't explain it. It just seems like they're constantly busy for busyness sake, I guess is the best way to say it. But that just really, what you both said about being grounded and having those rituals really, is hitting me a little bit now that, okay, I need to work and think about those things that can ground me even more.
I think I don't think it matters the time of day as long as you're having that time to connect to yourself and have that quiet time, because that's when we get the insights and the creativity and new things can come into us, because there's that silence and like, okay, what's really going on, and connect to ourselves. And yeah, the when you're talking about you are the guy saying, oh, aren't you alone? Don't you feel lonely, or whatever it is, the people get these things all the time, but it's ask questions like this. but it's always a projection of them, you know, like, oh, you're not married, oh, you don't have kids. It's like, because that's their thing, you know, it has nothing to do with you. It's like their program running of like what's supposed to be, and they put it out onto you. So I get these things a lot, and at first I'm like, am I supposed to? Like, I'll get pissed off or sad about it, and then I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm happy with whatever, you know, whether I'm in a relationship or not, or if I end up having kids or not, if I am alone or not, it's like, whatever. And yeah, I understand people can feel lonely, but we're also never alone, really. So we always have, there's everything around us, always. Energies, creator, whatever you want to call it, there's always. But yeah, so those are like those projections, and they can, seep in, and then we're like, ugh! But then it's like, no, that's their thing. So I guess that's all I wanted to add for now. Karen.
Just to just to add another area where we can do things with a kind of a ritual. I don't recall, Dan, if you are, and I'm making a point of calling you Dan because your name appears as Catherine Clement, and I know why that is. So that our listening audience and our viewing audience later on knows that you're Dan. We could call you Cat. I know Sandy is a follower of Neville Goddard, as I am. He's probably my prime lead for especially spiritual things, and for me being in touch with myself. And I saw something from his Power of Awareness. It's chapter 6, one of his special books, his Power of Awareness, and it's about attention. And he says a ritual that you can do at night is when you get into bed, you get settled into bed, then start to think back from that moment of getting into bed, the things that you've done throughout the day, and go back all through the day to the first thing that you did in the morning. I've now done that 2 nights, and the first night I was distracted throughout. My attention needs a lot of work. He calls it like a muscle. He says that your attention muscle is an important muscle because it gives you the foundation for essentially creating your reality the way that you want to, for being able to assume things being as you wish. Assuming the wish fulfilled is what he calls it. But anyway, I had a lot of distractions, but I did go through a lot of things, and I was amazed at what I had accomplished that day, in particular because now that I have come through my manic phase, I'm really watching carefully to avoid the clinical depression phase of a set of episodes. And I had some seriously lowered feelings in the midday. I napped for about 3 hours, and there was a point at which I was wondering, wow, am I going to be able to lift out of this? And when I got up and got going, I had so much more I accomplished in the day, and so that really filled me up. Feel free. Let's see. Then last night, I was really all over the map. I was really restless in trying to do that, and I can appreciate how much I need to work on that and keep it in mind as something to do to exercise my attention muscles. So I'll just throw that in the mix.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the attention muscle, it's a good reminder, because I used to follow Neville Goddard a lot and do like these visualizations. I was going to bed, and I was really like doing good with them and really getting in the zone. But I've been trying again over the past month, but it's like my mind starts kicking in. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I wake up the next morning like, wait, I never ended up doing the visualization. I just fell asleep like with my mind racing about nonsense all day. So yeah, it's a good reminder to focus again, that attention muscle. And I do meditate and that, so that, that in the morning works for me, where my mind is still quiet. I'm able to focus my attention on my breath in the mornings there. But yeah, that bedtime one, I'm going to work on this one again. It's good, because it was magical when I was doing those visualizations before bed. Really magical what was showing up in my life. So good reminder. Thank you. I'm going to see if there's more good stuff to read in the book while you guys continue on.
I was going to jump out a little bit, Karen, because of what you were saying about how to kind of go backwards from your night. And I kind of do that a little bit, but I'm like you. I have exercised that muscle enough to kind of get from the very end of the day back to the beginning, but I tend to skip around and jump to different parts of the day that kind of tend to stick out in my head. And I'd like to be able to get to the point where I could really go through the whole day and, help myself realize, just how much I've done. Because I key in on certain things like, okay, well, that, and it's like, I think I key on it because it had such a profound impact on me, or maybe, hit me, emotionally or personally or something. And rather than trying to let that be the focus, let the focus be overall everything, like I think you were getting at, is to review and see where your progress was, so you can kind of gauge and see what areas you need to focus on or pay attention to in other ways and aspects. And then, sorry, I had to use the restroom, so I missed out on it a little bit, but that was what I gathered, that little bit that you were speaking there. And I think that would help me, because I kind of do it a little bit, just not good enough yet. That's an area I think I need to practice on. I think Sandy's still looking over, so.
Yeah. Somebody else has something to say. Otherwise, I found a good little blurb here.
No, go for it.
Okay. This is in the chapter, and Oprah put a quote, a little paragraph here from Timothy Shriver. I think he's the chairman of the Special Olympics, or chairman or something. So he wrote, "Normal, the tyranny of that word. It's just like it's a cancer in the culture. Are you normal? Are you fitting in? Are you like everyone else? My God, it's terrifying. And yet we all feel that. So we come to these Special Olympic Games expecting to be sad. We come to them expecting to feel pity. We say things like, there, but for the grace of God, I go. People say that well-intentioned to me all the time. And I always want to say to them, that pity, that fear that embodies that idea of I'm healthy and they're not. I think there's a strength that only vulnerability knows, And I think the answer of our Special Olympic athletes is there is only power in vulnerability and trust. The other power is superficial. It locks people up. It puts people behind bars, social, cultural, political, interpersonal. There is only power. I grew up, everybody's in the spotlight. That's where we all wanted to get to. That's where you'd be successful. And what I saw was sometimes when the lights are the brightest, people feel the most invisible. I think sometimes where you think you want to go is not the place where you will feel your most heartfelt, most meaningful, most purposeful life. I mean, I looked around thinking I wanted to be like all those people in lights, and I found myself happiest in places nobody wanted to be. Wow. I think that's super powerful, because, a lot of times, the first half of my life, it was always about being normal. I never was normal, but it was like because of what my parents or my society was saying, like, go get a job, go do this, blah, 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 blah. And I always felt like my soul was sucked out of my, like, this isn't me, what am I doing? And finally I broke, like, Sandy, you have to live your life. Don't worry about what other people think you should be doing. Because I think, we try to get ourselves in this sort of box that's the right thing to do, or this is how I'm going to be successful. But when we really follow our passion, our what's coming out of our heart, that's where the magic is. And that's where we know the true strength of being vulnerable. And super powerful, the vulnerability and the trust. So, yeah.
Well, I'll add to that on that too, because like you say, it's like, um, and he's right, because we do look down, and I'm going to specifically use the word down. We look down on like people in the Special Olympics or in general that aren't doing what we perceive or aren't living what we perceive to be the life, you know. But who says life is what we have generally as a cultural norm, throughout the world anymore? Because it seems like everybody has adopted that normal thing, when in reality, you do find, a lot of people that shine their best when they're in their element or their passion or whatever, is the best suited thing to, and their happiest in. And yet, look at so many people that are so unhappy, you know, so unhappy. You would think the world would wake up to that and understand that, and you know, it's going to be there no matter what. Always, we're going to have that. Well, you should be more than that. So because people look at other people and they might see things in people that they believe is, part of their strengths and values, but do those strengths and values line up in their core essence of where they can put those strengths and abilities to the best use? And I think that's where we've gotten it so screwed up in life anymore, that, we're trying to worry so much, like you said, about what mom, dad say, or what, teachers say, or what, you know, bosses at where we're working or something like that. And yes, you need to listen to some of that, because there's some good constructive stuff that comes out of it that can pinpoint or help you see, oh, I'm good at this or I'm good at that. That we all might say, oh, I'm not that good, or I'm not. And then when they say, no, but look, you really are. Look at this, Lord. Then you can kind of, put that into tune with your spiritual GPS. So that way you can find that spot of where you can be at your best vibrational being and give the world what the world is desiring of us in our best, selves. And, it's just, you know, sad to see that, it takes constant stuff like what we do on the mastermind and things like that to help bring those things out and help line things up. And not enough people understand that. And I'm learning it more and more. Kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's what this is really, you know. And it's weird because it only helps strengthen my faith, not weaken it. That's the other interesting part of it. It hasn't taken away anything in my faith or my value or what I see. It strengthened me. So in that, I think, it's just sad to see that not enough people understand that, and that the vulnerability is true strength. And even I need to absorb that more, or let it shine more, or let my vulnerability show more. I try to be and um, sometimes I don't think it does that does me any real true value good.
It's interesting how the words normal, and I'm going to introduce average here for a moment. They're such plain and simple and ordinary words, and yet they have meanings for us that we need to pay attention to. What that reading brought to mind for me was a time that I was studying Dr. Abraham A. Lowe, who started Recovery Incorporated, and it was at the same time in the it was in the late 20s, I think, of the 1900s. And he was a he was a he was a surgeon of the nerves, and I'm thinking he was a neurosurgeon, and I don't want to get that confused with something else. But anyway, because he understood the nervous system of the body so well, he was a psychiatrist, and psychiatrists always have to have a specialty that's why they're a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, because they are an MD. And um, anyway, he taught people how to be average, because people with mental problems, and I am one, and that's part of why I got so off track this morning, I think, by fearing that I had lost my password to get into my Chromebook. I thought, oh my goodness, now what am I going to do? Because I rely on LastPass, and of course, right at the beginning, you've got to remember your main password to even get to where you can charge up LastPass to come to your rescue. But anyway, Dr. Lowe taught the mental patient how to be average. Now, average in this case, as we've been talking about normal, and we've been thinking about the Special Olympics, and we've been thinking about people who physically we can see need to fit into the Special Olympics if they're going to participate in that. A lot of times we miss out on when a person has difficulties with their mental abilities, and we don't recognize what's going on sometimes when they. I was thinking about my across the street neighbor who has a I want to think of the name of this, and I don't know. It's not popping to my mind because that's not the direction my mind's in. But it's one of those little cars, one of those little British cars that, years ago when I read about it, it came on the scene. It was impressive that it went from 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, and I wanted to have one. But he's a smaller individual, and he gets into that car, and it just gives him size, and he actually, I think, has had 2 at one time on occasion. And I was thinking how confused I get that there's one parked in front of his house with a little for sale. When I walk up close to it, I can read the little digits on it that are his phone number, and that, he's got this for sale. And so because my eyes are changing and I can't see quite the same as I did even in recent months, and again, I know that that's these episodes that I've been going through. I'm not sure if that's him or if he's got somebody else's vehicle out there for sale, and so I'm not anxious to call out his name and say, "Hey, how's it going?" and stuff. And I kind of slutch around and hope he doesn't see me, or hope he doesn't figure out that I have been negligent. But the thing is that whatever our difficulties might be, whether they're physical or they're mental, I think that we can work on being average and being seen as average with the people around us, in terms of none of us are any better, none of us are any worse than anyone else. We all have difficulties, and many of our difficulties are invisible. And so if we can keep in mind to strive to be average in terms of relating to other people, that we all have many things in common, and we have things that are not in common, and we can think of normal in terms of, hey, who wants to just be normal? None of us wants to just be normal, and whatever standard that might be set up to be is probably not our standard. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, what if normal could be like compassionate and caring, and everybody sees that we're all going through something. We all have things, our ups, downs, our good sides, our bad sides, and what if normal was compassion and love and peace on earth? Let me get my hippie out now. But yeah, when you were talking, Dan, about that too. About what you were talking about. Oh, I forget now. But I was reminded of I think on a few hangouts, Catherine and I have brought up homeless people, like how society's so quick to judge them. It's like, go get a job, get a, blah, 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 you know, but then there's so many that they've chosen that, and you can't judge it. There was a guy when I was in college who sat outside of the fountain, and he was homeless, and he loved it. He played guitar. He'd always have friends around him, and people would bring him food and take care of him because he was just this shining light, and he had such wisdom and beautiful. Like, he found his purpose. He found where his heart wanted to be. He didn't want to pay rent or bills. He was like, I'll sit by the fountain and people come visit me, and he was so happy. I was like, wow. And there's a woman here in Miami Beach who she's happy to be homeless because she takes care of all the stray dogs and pets on the street. Like, she'll just nurture them and love them. And she's like, this makes me happy, and this is where I want to be. So it's beautiful to see when someone's really in their heart path without worrying about, you know, what society says is the right, like, oh, they're homeless, then what's wrong, you know? Well, maybe nothing's wrong. So, and yeah, when you were talking about vulnerability, Dan, reminded me a couple weeks ago, I was going through a difficult process, like just seeing some stuff in the past and seeing it in a new light, and it's sort of a grief process for me. So I was holding it in for a while, and then finally it was just a point where I'm almost shaking because I couldn't hold it anymore. So I just talked to a friend. She's sort of an acquaintance that I've seen a few times, but we always like super connect and have a great time together. And I'm like, I just have to like get this off my chest. Can I just share with you? And I just told her everything. And I'm like, part of this I never shared with anybody, even my close friends. And so she's like, of course. And just sharing and being vulnerable, it like, and she gave me all these advice, and she was like, call me every day if it comes back, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, one of my friends who was around saw that I was upset. So he came to talk to me, and he was giving me all these reminders and sort of like shaking me a bit, like, come on, you know, the blah, 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 and going. And by the end, I felt so much better. And he said something that was a good reminder, is like, sharing is actually caring for others, because everybody has something, and when you share and are vulnerable, it allows that other person to get to share as well and be vulnerable, and it just makes everybody more open and vulnerable around you and able to just be authentic and honest, and not be ashamed of, oh, I'm going through this, I did something really bad. Like, we've all been in these places, and we all have shame and guilt and all these emotions that can come up in our lives. And rather than hold it in, because I know when I was holding it, it was affecting my body. Like, I'm shaking. Like, what else is it doing on a cellular level, you know, when we're holding these emotions? So I'm like, I just got to get it out. And it changed everything, you know, and within a few days I had released it. I had ended up talking to about 5 friends about what the process was for me, and they helped me see the light. And so being vulnerable is magical, and it really, I think it really brings people together in a more authentic way and more trusting and real. And let's be real, you know, we're humans and we go through shit, so we can't hold it in. So finding the people we can trust to really be open, and even if we feel like maybe we can't trust them, and see, maybe can shift a relationship if we just be open and honest with somebody. So yeah.
I was going to jump out and really quick, because we're getting close to the top of the hour, even though we started a little late, so I'll let it run over just a little to try and get that full hour in. But I know for me, and I don't know if this is a true assessment or if it's just because of what I've seen through a couple friends, that I think I have a couple friends who have a very hard time opening up and letting people in and sharing. I think they have a hard time because of just aspects of their life where, and I think maybe it's a deeper thing where they just feel like nobody really cares in a sense. And I felt that way at times myself. I mean, don't get me wrong. But I do have people I go to and I share things with and I feel comfortable. But there are a couple friends I would like to be able to share, and I try to share, but then I kind of tend to get shut down. And it kind of just gets to me because it's like, but I'm starting to realize that, it's not part of their nature, which I don't understand and I don't get, because to me, after a while, I get kind of like you. I get to that point where I can't hold something in. I need to get it out of me and share with somebody and get it, because otherwise it starts affecting me physically and, stuff like that. And for these people, I wonder how you work on getting to a point where you can get them to trust you and open up and let them open up that valve a little bit, to be reciprocal to things, to help maybe give them a valve or something, to where, because it seems like they're always just kind of, I can't explain it. They're just kind of always, and
Yeah.
and I see it, and I feel it, and it's like, so in that sense, how do we share ourselves without sharing? But I don't know if I'm saying it right or getting that feeling across, but that's hard too, because you sense it, you feel it, and you know it, and but I don't know if they have somebody that they do ultimately go to, and I just don't know. I don't know it, or things like that, and that's hard to be around too, because then it affects me vibrationally too, and that's another area that I'm trying to understand and get a better understanding about. And I think this spiritual GPS kind of is a way to look at it, and you know kind of go back, keep myself grounded, be open, but don't push anything either. Maybe, I guess, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss on that area, but I think is a good area to look at, because you know I feel that if you come across that, it affects you too, and it can wear on you personally too. And so, have you ever come across anything like that, or felt that, or dealt with that, or is that
Sure.
just something?
It's well, a lot of people have walls up. They're grown up, maybe, I don't know, being abused or put down or not able to share. I mean, growing up, I was terribly shy, and I had walls up for a long time. I couldn't be open with people, and a lot of people are going through stuff, and they are afraid to share and be vulnerable. It's not easy. It's really not easy. I think the more that you just are, open and I'm here if you need, like, just portraying that energy of I'm open, I'm vulnerable, I'm able to share. If somebody who is closed ultimately gets to the point where they're like, I need to share this, then maybe at that time they'll come to you and be like, I know that you will receive this without judging me and blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of people are afraid of sharing too, or being vulnerable, because they're so afraid of being judged for stuff that we all go through. But it's a big thing. Like, people are afraid of being judged, of I'm a bad person because I have these bad feelings. But I think the more you're just, being that you want to be, then they'll feel that over time. Because I've had people come to me months later, they may have been closed, and then one day they'll just, I just want to share something because I know that you don't judge, and you don't, you're open and you won't judge me, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, great. And it's so heart touching too, when somebody can come to you like that and see that you are that way. So, I would just say, just keep being you, and be, share blips with them of your personal stuff. And maybe over time they'll say, he's always been so open with me, maybe I can share with him. So I would just be patient and just keep being yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm like you. I was very closed off a lot of times and didn't want to, except for a very, very few trusted friends. It's only over the last 10, 15 years I've grown and opened more, to where I'm not afraid to share and stuff like that. But there are a couple good friends where I can't seem to get them to understand where I'm coming from, and it wears on me. So I think that's more where I was coming from. I understand what you're getting at. I'm pretty much, I think you guys know, I'm pretty much like that. I share, and you know, I may not go into deep details, but I share, and I feel, and when I need to share, I share. But sometimes, maybe it's just that maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just trying a little too hard, and maybe just back off and just kind of let it be more natural and flow, and whatever happens, happens.
Just be you. We. That's
If
all we
I
need to do is just be us. Yay.
if I could throw in a little bit with this, what's come to my mind and what had come up earlier when Sandy was talking about her parallel parking and having somebody come right up on her and losing it. Um, we need to remember that we have these various aspects of ourselves that some people call some sub personalities. The ancients called archetypes. And when Sandy went back to say that she was shy, it's hard to imagine now Sandy being shy, but I bet she occasionally shows up with that shy person, or that shy person comes out with someone. And it could be that situation, Dan, that um, a person is kind of riding along in this particular personality, or possibly even has learned to use that personality when someone tries to share with them because of their past experiences. And we've talked about trying to stay with people of the same vibration. And of course, we can't do that in all different settings. And not everybody has tried to plumb their depths and see who they really are. I've been doing some writing lately and visiting the simple questions. Who am I? And that's something I pondered as a child, and I've pondered all my life. And you get a kind of a pat answer, and you start to write about things like that, and all kinds of stuff come out, and you go, "Whoa! I know I didn't know that a long time ago. I didn't even realize I knew that now." But I think I'll just kind of do my little wrap up on this because I recently have kind of, in the course, I guess, of writing about who am I, it seems like I've unearthed a couple of these personalities that I didn't really pay much attention to because they were calm ones. They're probably ordinary ones that are out a lot. And I've started to write about them, and it's funny. I've been writing about them in the third person. I didn't know that I could successfully write in the third person because I generally write in first person. And I can write in third person, and it feels interesting to kind of separate separate them off from me, that to that extent, so that I can look at them and I can individuate them, um, because I have my calm and kind of ordinary subselves, and then I have my subselves. I have kind of rampaging subselves like Sandy ran into when she. Those are the kinds of things that come up when you're not expecting someone to come at you and catch you off guard. So I'll end sharing with that right now. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that point. I didn't ever really think about, but you made a great point that and I think we all have them. We have those sub characters or whatever you called it, um, that come out of us that, when we're playing certain roles and interacting and stuff. I'd forgotten about that, and you may be right. That maybe whenever I interact with this person, that might be the role that comes out just intuitively for them in response to things I'm doing, and I'm not realizing it, and I'm thinking, well, but I appreciate that point because now I will keep that in mind and try and remember, when this, when and if it happens again, that, oh, okay, let me just pull back. They might be responding in a way that they would respond to somebody else doing the same thing or somebody from their past, and let me go at it from a different angle by pulling back or something like that, or adjusting how I respond then. But I appreciate that you just said that because it gave me a new insight and an understanding where I wasn't thinking along that lines before. So that's helpful. I appreciate that. Wow. okay, we don't need to all jump out at once now. I guess I'll, wrap up for my bit, and then I'll let Sandy say anything if she has anything. Um, uh, as it is, we're about 10 minutes after the hour, so I'm going to thank you for joining us. As always, if you like what you see here or want to know more about us, you can always go over to our Facebook page at Saturday Morning Mastermind. You can always get log on stuff there. We have a YouTube channel that you can go to and find this video and all this and prior and past ones from things we covered and past books and things we've gone over. We would love to see you here joining us, being a part of this. We love and welcome everybody's perspective and love it when we can grow and help other people on their journeys to wherever they're headed. So with that, Dan Sister here in Las Vegas, so I will hand it over to Sandy if she has anything else to say before I wrap this up.
I think I'm all good. Great conversation with our little crew here. And see you all next time. Have a great weekend.